ABS Media Demo.
Welcome to ibbusinessandmanagement.com. I'm Mr. Burton, site author of ibbusinessandmanagement.com and head of business at a leading independent IB World School. Today we are looking at the topic of 5.5 location, and that is within the operations management section of the course. Welcome, delighted to have you with me. 5.5 location, let's get going. Hope you learned something today. Okay, we're going to make a quick distinction here between location and relocation. Location refers to the geographic position of the business, so where it's sited, whether that's in Guangdong, China, or Mississippi, USA. And relocation, we're talking about a decision, and this is the decision after management has sat down and they are considering moving to alternate premises. Relocation has substantial high costs involved in this very strategic decision. Setting up a new factory is probably not the least expensive thing a company has ever done in its life. Whereas location, the geographic position of the business, it's set up already. So relocation is moving from an existing location. Now for a new business, the location of operations, it's a significantly high portion of cost. And these costs, you establish your factory, you establish your headquarters, there's sunk costs. You're not going to be able to get them back. Non-recoverable. So the decision is very strategic, very important. Only the highest levels of management are involved in this decision. And it is such an important decision because it's going to have profound implications on the profitability and survival of the firm. Why is location so important, you may ask? Well, let's get started and have a look. Right, there are three key characteristics of the location decision. The first is that they're strategic in nature. Strategic in nature as they're long term and have an impact on the whole business. You make a location decision, you set up your base of operations, your factories in this one area. They can't be moved every 2 years. There's sunk costs, very high sunk costs, not recoverable. You make the right decision. It's got to be strategic. You've got to be thinking about the long term. Very difficult to reverse, and this is simply down to the cost of relocation. You cannot go around setting up your headquarters, building factories, shifting your factories every few years. Right. Difficult to reverse. If an error of judgment is made, you're in trouble. The costs of relocation make this a difficult decision to reverse. And as mentioned previously, this decision, a location decision, is taken by the highest management levels and definitely not delegated to subordinates. And an optimal location decision is one that selects the best site for expansion of the business or for its relocation given the current information. The best site is going to maximize the long-term profits of the business, and the optimal site is nearly always a compromise between conflicting benefits and drawbacks. For example, if you are a retailer, a well-positioned high street shop will have the potential for high sales, but will have higher rental charges than a similar sized shop out of town. A factory location which is cheap to purchase due to the distance from major towns might have problems recruiting staff due to the lack of large and trained working population. So an optimal location is likely to be one that is full of compromises. It's one that's a balancing act. And that balancing act is likely to occur between the high fixed cost of the site and buildings, with convenience for customers and potential sales revenue, the low cost of a remote site with a limited supply of suitably qualified labour, quantitative and qualitative factors, we're going to go into this in detail in a second, and the opportunities of receiving government grants in areas of high unemployment with the risk of low sales as average incomes in the area may be low. Optimal location, a business location that gives the best combination of quantitative as well as qualitative factors. And an exam tip here, don't assume that the best location for a business will always be competitive. Cost and other factors can change over a period of time, and this accounts for many firms relocating to new sites. And as discussed previously, relocation can be expensive. Right, let's start off by looking at the quantitative factors. The quantitative factors influencing location decisions. Now remember, quantitative factors, these are measurable in financial terms, and they will have a direct impact on either the cost of a site or the revenues from that site and its profitability. Starting with site and other capital costs, working our way round clockwise, this quantitative factor, so the site and other capital costs such as building or shop fitting costs, now these vary greatly from region to region within a country and between countries. The best office and retail sites may be so expensive that the cost of them is beyond the resources of all but the largest companies. The cost of building on a greenfield site, one that has never previously been developed, must be compared with the cost of adapting existing buildings on a developed site. Labour costs. The relative importance of these as a locational factor depends on whether the business is a capital or labour intensive industry. An insurance company or call centre will need many staff, but the labour costs of a nuclear power station will be a very small proportion of its total cost. The attraction of much lower wage rates overseas, for example in Guangdong, China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, has encouraged many European businesses to set up operations in other countries. For example, bank and insurance company call centres. Transport costs. Businesses that use heavy and bulky raw materials such as steel making will incur high transport costs of suppliers who are at a great distance from the steel plant. Goods that increase in bulk during production will traditionally reduce transport costs by locating close to the market. Service industries such as hotels and retailing need to be conveniently located for customers, and transport costs will be less significant. An important one here is sales revenue potential. The level of sales made by a business can depend directly on location. Sweet shops and convenience stores have to be just that, convenient to potential customers. In addition to this, certain locations can add status and image to a business, and this may allow value to be added to the product in the eyes of the consumer. This is true for high-class retailers situated in London's Bond Street or Ngee City in Singapore, but also for financial specialists operating from an address in New York's Wall Street. Government grants, hopefully less significant, but still a factor to consider. Governments across the world are very keen to attract new businesses to locate in their country. Grants may be offered to act as an incentive. Existing businesses operating in a country can also be provided with financial assistance to retain existing jobs or attract new employment to deprived areas of high unemployment. And remember, we're talking quantitative factors here, so all of these quantitative factors can be number crunched. And different financial techniques can be used to assist in these location decisions. So things like profit estimates, where we are comparing estimated revenues and costs of each location. Perhaps the site with the highest annual potential profit could be identified. We have got investment appraisal, and we have got break-even analysis as well. Our qualitative factors, in the choice of location decisions. Quite a few things to consider here. Safety. Just qualitative factors. These are non-measurable factors that may influence business decisions. And qualitative factors, the definition, non-measurable factors that may influence business decisions. Let's start with safety. Now, safety: to avoid potential risk to the public and damage to the company's reputation as a consequence of an accident that did risk public safety. Some industrial plants will be located in remote areas, even though these may increase transport and other costs. Room for further expansion needs to be considered. It is expensive to relocate if a site proves to be too small to accommodate an expanding business. If a location has room for further expansion of the business, then this might be an important long-term consideration. Managers' preferences. In small businesses, managers' personal preferences regarding desirable work and home environments could influence location decisions of the business. In larger organisations, such as a public limited company, this is unlikely to be a factor, as earning profits and increasing returns to shareholders will be key objectives that will take priority in location decisions. The supply of labour. Apart from the cost of labour, the availability or non-availability of workers with appropriate skills to the business in question will be an important factor for most business location decisions. Ethical considerations. A business deciding to relocate from the UK is likely to make workers redundant, and that's going to cause bad publicity. It could also be contrary to the ethical code of the business and may be viewed by stakeholders as being immoral. And in addition, if the relocation is to a country with much weaker controls over worker welfare, e.g. Bangladesh, Vietnam, Haiti, and the environment as well, there could be further claims that the business is acting unethically. There are environmental concerns that may need to be taken into consideration. A business might be reluctant to set up an area that is particularly sensitive from an environmental viewpoint, as this could lead to poor public relations and action from pressure groups. Infrastructure, a very important one to consider for big industries. The quality of the local infrastructure, especially transport and communication links, telephone services, broadband, internet, etc., ports, will influence the choice of location. Singapore's huge port facilities have encouraged many of the world's largest shipping firms to set up a base there. The quality of IT infrastructure varies considerably around the world, and this is an important consideration for companies that need quick communication with different sites or customers. Yeah, and we've touched on this already. Different quantitative techniques to assist in location choice. Profit estimates, looking at the costs and the revenues of each location, each possible location. Break-even analysis, we've just touched on that in the previous topic. And investment appraisal, we have a look at all those different types of quantitative methods for appraising an investment, e.g. Payback period, net present value, etc., etc. So topic 3.2 will look at the quantitative techniques to assist appraising an investment. And building a new factory, setting up a new headquarters is definitely considered an investment. There are a few other locational issues that may need to be taken into consideration. We have the pull of the market. Now this is less important with the development of transport and the communication industries and with the world becoming a single market for so many goods. But nonetheless, it can be important. So the internet can achieve a massive amount in terms of rendering a location of retailing business less important, but the market is still very important for the service industries, and the power of the car has taken many of these out of the convenience centres of towns and onto ring roads. Cinemas are a good example. Once the centrepiece of a town, it is found regenerated on the ring roads. Superstores and other retail stores have located in a similar fashion. Planning restrictions. Local authorities have a duty to serve the interests of their populations. On the one hand, they want businesses and industries because they provide employment. On the other hand, they want to protect the environment of the towns and villages. In some areas, large development corporations may set up to develop a town or city into a much more successful combination of dwellings and industrial activity. In most countries, local or central government has set up industrial estates and business parks that both businesses and consumers find very attractive. External economies of scale. This is an important one. These are cost reductions that can benefit a business as the industry clusters and grows in one region. If you want to have a look at an example of a cluster, the classic example of a industry cluster would be Silicon Valley and those high-tech IT industries developing just outside of San Diego. So clusters that grow in one region. It's common for firms in the same industry to be clustered in the same region. Silicon Valley, a financial centre, financial banks and financial centres in the city of London, Wall Street. Now, each of these clusters are going to have a developed skills base. So lots of skilled workers are going to be attracted to them. If you want to be in finance, then you head to London. You head to Wall Street. If you want to be a successful IT entrepreneur, test your coding skills, then Silicon Valley is the place to be. And also in these places, in these clusters, it's going to be easier to arrange cooperation and joint ventures when businesses are located close to each other. And there are also multi-site location decisions as well, where businesses are spread across different sites. So perhaps the business would be looking at a whole host of possible locations, not just settling for one, but settling for perhaps the 10 best locations. And there are advantages and disadvantages for these. If you want to get on the website, you can download some summary notes on those. Perhaps a business is looking at an international location decision. So the benefits of international location, first up, is to reduce costs. And this is undoubtedly the major reason explaining most companies' moves abroad. The potential for higher profits will benefit the finance department despite the initial setup costs in overseas locations. With labour wage rates in India, Malaysia, China and Eastern Europe being a fraction of those in Western Europe and the USA, it's not surprising that businesses that wish to remain competitive have to seriously consider relocation to low-wage economies. And in developing countries, because of the shortage of jobs, the Human Resource Department will find it easy to recruit unskilled or semi-skilled workers. Another advantage of an international location is that it's easier to access global markets. So rapid economic growth in developing countries has created huge potential for the marketing department to exploit. Access to these markets is often best achieved by direct operation in the countries concerned. Markets for some products in Western Europe have reached saturation point, and further sales growth can only be achieved by expanding abroad. Some businesses have reached the limit of their internal domestic expansion as the market may have reached saturation. There may be threats from government regulatory bodies about increasing monopoly power, and all of these reasons help explain why Tesco's recent international expansion. Tesco shops are now common sights in Thailand and Eastern Europe, and it has also become the only major UK-based retail business to expand successfully into the USA. Many businesses' international location decisions are in response to competitors' location decisions. I repeat that because that's important. Many businesses' international location decisions are in response to competitors' location decisions. These are often called defensive actions. So the expansion of the French supermarket chain Carrefour into China, gaining first mover advantage in the process, has encouraged Tesco to make similar strategic location decisions in this burgeoning market. Another one here: to avoid protectionist trade barriers. Remember, trade barriers we define as being taxes or tariffs or other limitations, e.g. quotas, on the free international movement of goods and services. Now, barriers to free international trade are rapidly becoming reduced, but some still exist out there, and notably between large trading blocs such as the EU, North American Free Trade Association NAFTA, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN, ASEAN. Now, to avoid tariff barriers on imported goods into most countries or trading blocs, it's necessary to set up operations within the country or trading bloc concern. So, for example, we have Honda's factory in Swindon, the UK, that produces cars for the EU market, and Toyota's new car factory in Mexico that gives tariff-free access to other countries' car markets. Now, there are definite other reasons as well that benefit an international location: government financial support, good educational standards, highly qualified staff, and perhaps to avoid exchange rate fluctuations. And just a quick exam tip: do your own research during the IB Business and Management course on major location decisions, both at home and abroad, of businesses based in your country. Now, if the benefits of an international location decision, you can guarantee that the IB Business and Management exam is going to ask you about the limitations of international locations as well. And first up, we have language and other communication barriers. Distance is often a problem for effective communication. This human resources problem is made worse when company employees, suppliers or customers use another language altogether. This is one of the reasons for India's success in attracting offshoring companies. English is one of the official languages. Cultural differences. Now, these are important for the marketing department if products are being sold in the country concerned. Consumer tastes and religious factors will play a significant role in determining what goods should be stocked. Cultural differences can exist in the workplace and impact on human resource management. For example, Toyota found that the typical Mexican worker is self-reliant and independent, yet the Toyota manufacturing system depends greatly on teamwork and cooperation. A clash of cultures there which needed to be resolved. Level of service concerns. The operations management issue applies particularly to the offshoring of call centres, technical support centres and functions such as accounting. Some consumer groups argue that offshoring of these services has led to inferior customer service due to time difference problems, time delays in phone messages, language barriers and different practices and conventions. For example, perhaps with the accounting systems of the different countries. Supply chain concerns. The operations management department will also be very concerned about the loss of control over quality and reliability of delivery with overseas manufacturing plants. This reason is always cited by Zara, the clothing company, for its decision not to offshore clothing production to cheaper countries, as fast fashion requires very close contact with suppliers. Using just-in-time manufacturing may become much riskier if important supplies have to be shipped thousands of miles to an assembly plant. And finally, ethical considerations. There may be a loss of jobs when a company locates all or some of its operations abroad, and this may, as in the case of Burberry clothing, lead to a consumer boycott, as there were claims that the company's decision to close its Welsh factory was not the right thing to do. So, a whole host of factors that apply specifically to international locations. both benefits to the international location and limitations of international location decisions. And finally, just to get you thinking about this very, very, very strategic decision, have a think about this. It's a location and business activity. A location decision can be assessed across all of the different functional areas of a business, all of the different functional areas of a business. If we shift our factories from Mississippi, USA to Guangdong, China, now that's going to have a huge impact on all of the different functional areas of a business. Personnel, suddenly we have a whole lot of cheap labour. The personnel department is going to have to think about the redundancies involved in shutting down the Mississippi factory. Marketing, no longer made in the USA, but there may be an influence on the pricing. Cheaper production through cheaper wages for Chinese workers may lead to the business being able to pass on those cost savings to their consumers and be more price competitive. Production, setting up a new factory is going to impact on a whole host of production operations management decisions. New factories, is the new factory going to take advantage of cheaper labour and employ more labour, become more labour intensive? Or is this a chance to a new factory to invest in the most up-to-date, the best equipment, most productive machinery, and therefore become highly capital intensive and very efficient, perhaps taking advantage of economies of scale? And finance is going to be affected in the short term by these high setup costs, and in the long term, hopefully those cost savings, those increased revenues are going to flow. A whole lot of different things to think about, which is why location, short and sweet as it is a very, very important subject, which is why it's given its own little niche in the operations management section of the IB Business and Management course. Lots of things to think about. Often comes up in the case study analysis, that paper 2 exam. So make sure you know the advantages and the disadvantages and why location decisions are important and what impacts they can have in the location. Right, I'm Mr. Burton. Pleasure to have you with me today. That's 5.5 location done and dusted. Next time we meet, it will be for high-level students only, and that will be 3.6 innovation. Hope to see you there. Hope you learned something today. Delighted as always to be here with you. Bye for now.